Derek, welcome to the Effin News. For people out there, first home buyers, what is the fastest way to their own home?
The fastest way is firstly to believing that it can be done, which is really important, and it's a message that is not what they normally hear. The second thing that's most important is that they buy a brand new home, because it halves or more than halves the time it takes you to get that home, because you only need a 10% deposit.
Right. These are two great things for us to start with. Let's start with the belief, and then we'll come to the practicality of this. You are saying to me that people need to believe that they can buy their first home, that they've lost that belief out there. Do you think that that Kiwi dream is over?
Yeah, no, I think the belief
the Kiwi dream is over.
And when I started this whole journey, I did too. I thought this is really structurally broken. There's some real issues, and there are. But the main thing was that people just didn't believe they could, and they needed the bank of mum and dad to make it happen. And the more time I spent in this space, which I was triggered because of the crisis and COVID, I started unpeeling all the layers. Why does this narrative exist? Why do people always talk about 20%? Why don't they know about all these things that I found out? When I found them all out, I was like, hang on. If you're the average couple, you're like 30-something, you have the average Kiwi saver, and you're in the average wage of $33 an hour, there is a way I could get you into a first home in a year. And that's what this book is about. And so there's something in there that has to reject the narrative that we've been telling each other. And there is a reason why that narrative keeps getting told.
Yeah, okay. It's the affordability crisis is what we're talking about here. People see all of this, they know that this is out there, and they've lost that belief.
Yeah, and the house prices do go up, which is true. They've gone up for 7% a year for the last 50 years, maybe a little bit less now. But the main thing is people constantly talk in the media about a 20% deposit for an average home. Average home has been about $1 million. 20% deposit's 200 grand. People give up. But actually, you can buy a brand new home, 650 grand for a 10% deposit. That's 65 grand. Then people's mindset changes.
Let's unpack that. So you're saying the average couple on the average wage with the average Kiwi saver can buy a home within a year.
Yeah.
They don't have access to the bank of mum and dad also. So can we add that to the picture?
Yes, they don't have access to bank of mum and dad. If they're 30-something, the average Kiwi saver is around 22 each. So they've got 44. The average wage is about 68, 69. If they add that up, if they're a working couple, they've got well over 100 in earnings. That's enough to buy a brand new home in almost anywhere in New Zealand. Now, it might not be the one you'd imagine and the one you'd pictured, you know, with the lots of garden and fences and, you know, swimming pools, but it's the thing that'll get you into the market, which everyone, you know, knows is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Get in now as well. That's part of your...
Yeah, you've got to get in as early as you can, because unless the entire nature of the structure of the country changes the way houses are built, made, funded, until the point where the house prices stop continuing to go up, it's just running further and further away from you. So you need to kind of come in as early as possible and be part of that wave so that your equity grows while the market is growing. You know, and that doesn't solve the actual issue that we're talking about. We're trying to use the system as it is to hack it and game it to ensure that as many Kiwis as possible can get into a home.
So that is your message here in this book, is that you want to hack the system, you want to game the system, and the key part of that is getting into a home now, not the home that you want, not your ideal home. Get that later on. That's one of the messages of this book.
First home, not a forever home. And once people start to realize that and make the trade-off and think, well, I could keep believing that I'll never get the home I dream of, or I can make the decision now and buy an entry home or start a home, at least I'm in the game.
Sure. And a key thing here is the 20%, 10% deposit part of this. Those are rules set by the Reserve Bank. Just very quickly explain those.
Yeah, so when I started this whole adventure, I also thought you must have 20%, and there was no way around it. And there's a little bit of lending the banks could do for special cases for under that. But actually, there's an exemption that if you are going to buy a brand new house, then you need far less, and the banks can give you mostly with 10%. The reason they've done that is because it encourages new stock and new building, which helps alleviate the problem. But a lot of the commentators, media people, the Real Estate Association and Institute, they constantly, even till today, talk about needing 20%. That's great. That's fantastic for those who can have it. But it means that plenty of people give up, and all those who could get 10% think they need to get another 10, which might take them 5 or 7 years. House price could be up 50 or 60% by then, and then you kind of get this doom cycle, this loop where, like, I thought I was there, and now it's moved again.
Sure. And Derek, for people who don't know your background, you know, you are a very brainy Kiwi. You know, okay. So, you know, what is your background that, you know, the kind of things that you've done. You've started more companies than I can count. You're a startup king. You're a tech legend. You know, you're a guru. All of these terms. How would you describe yourself?
I would describe myself as someone who finds problems that need fixing in a way that hasn't been thought of before. And for the last 15 years, those have always been problems either around society or the environment, right? So as you said, I've started multiple companies. I've invested in lots of companies tackling climate change. The first company I started didn't have necessarily a social mission. It was focused on how do you move from the PC world to the mobile world. But one of the other things I'm really good at is figuring out what trends are like and how you can change something in a system. And that's what this is about. It's about looking at the system and figuring out how you navigate it to win. And part of it's a mindset, and it's part of it's knowing like what those hacks are.
Yeah, and it's important to note that you've got a company that, you know, can help do this era. You know, you're wearing a bit of era kit today, just in case people didn't pick up. So you're going to, you know, you've got to make a business out of this as well.
I've committed to this because I thought it was a problem that no one was looking at in a fresh way. And often the best way I've found that people can solve problems is by starting a company. So create something that actually gets the solution that somebody wants using the market, right, that actually already exists. And so that's all we do is exist to just help people get into their first home as fast as they can.
So it's a company that people can come to and use these hacks.
Yeah, and we help everything from the beginning to the end, from saving all the way through to actually finding these homes that come under this kind of 10% exemption.
And there's a few, you know, harsh calls. The word avocado on toast isn't mentioned in here, you know, because that's very triggering for first home buyers. But you do talk about living below your means and lifestyle creep, you know, which is, you know, code for getting rid of the avocado on toast.
Well, it's also code for not buying the car on finance, which is what most people who've given up, they think, oh, the house is years away, because we have thousands of people in the community now, so we have a huge number of data points. Someone gives up, they think it's too far away, the first thing they'll do is buy a near or brand new car on finance, which is the fastest way to go backwards, because you're buying something that's depreciating and you're borrowing for it. So the avocado and toast stuff is all around the fringes. It's some of these bigger things, which it's like those things are like landmines for the first home dream.
Sure, so get rid of the landmines, concentrate on the believe in the possible of doing this, and look to get a new build, and you're on your way. So your message, Derek Hanley, to Kiwis out there who think they can't get a first home is what?
They almost certainly can, right? If there's two average people in their late 20s, early 30s, almost always we'll be able to find them a way if they want to. If their mindset is committed and they are like fully all in, there is a way.
And they don't need to be a couple, they can share.
You could share, because it doesn't need to be an actual, you know, married couple or something, but you can buy with a friend or any other way. But there's almost always a way to find yourself into a first home in the next few years.
All right, that's a good way to end it. Thank you very much. Derek Hanley, author of The Fastest Way to Your First Home.
Thanks, Patty.